What if everything you were taught about money was incomplete? What if working hard, getting good grades, and securing a stable job was not the safest path, but a comfortable trap? This book begins with a question that quietly challenges everything we believe about success. And before we go further, if you want to understand money, mindset, and life through powerful books, subscribe to the Book Day and become better than yesterday. This story is written by Robert Kiyosaki, not as a financial expert in a suit, but as a confused young boy trying to make sense of the adult world. He grew up with two fathers. One was his real father, highly educated, respected, and financially struggling. Robert calls him his poor dad. The other was his best friend's father, a school dropout who became wealthy. He calls him his rich dad. The book is built around the lessons Robert learned from watching these two men think very differently about money. Poor dad believed in job security. He believed in working hard, earning promotions, and depending on a steady paycheck. Rich dad believed in financial education. He believed in understanding how money works and making money work for you. Both men were smart. Both worked hard, but their results were completely different. As a child, Robert noticed something strange. Poor dad earned a good salary, yet was always worried about money. Rich dad earned less in the beginning, yet was calm and confident. This contrast planted a seed. Robert realized that money problems were not always about income. They were about how people think. One of the first lessons Rich Dad taught was uncomfortable. He said, "The poor and the middle class work for money, the rich have money work for them." This sentence sounds simple, but it changes how you see your entire life. Most people wake up every day driven by fear. Fear of bills, fear of losing their job, fear of not having enough. That fear pushes them into the rat race. Work harder, earn more, spend more, repeat. Schools teach us how to be employees, not how to be financially independent. We are trained to seek safety, not freedom. Rich dad believed this was dangerous. He said the more you depend on a paycheck, the more power money has over you. True financial strength comes from reducing that dependence. At a young age, Robert wanted to earn money. Like most kids, he thought working harder was the answer. Rich dad shocked him by saying he would not pay him much at all. In fact, he paid him almost nothing. The lesson was not about being cheap. It was about training the mind. Rich dad wanted Robert to learn to work without being motivated by money, to observe opportunities instead of chasing wages. This lesson revealed something important. Most people are so focused on earning money that they miss the lessons money is trying to teach them. They become trapped in routine, wake up, work, pay bills, sleep, repeat. Years pass, life moves on, and freedom feels further away. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not a book about becoming rich quickly. It's a book about changing the way you see money, and that change begins with education, not income. Now the book introduces the most important and most misunderstood lesson of all, the difference between assets and liabilities. Robert Kiyosaki says this single idea, if understood clearly, can change your financial life forever. Most people believe an asset is anything valuable, a house, a car, a good job, but Rich Dad used a much simpler definition. An asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes money out of your pocket, that's it. No complex terms, no confusion. Using this definition, many things people proudly call assets are actually liabilities. Your house may feel like an asset, but if it constantly requires mortgage payments, repairs, taxes, and maintenance, it is taking money from you every month. Your car may look impressive, but if it depreciates and demands fuel, insurance, and servicing, it is costing you money, not making you money. This is where most people get trapped. They work hard, earn more, and use that income to buy liabilities, believing they are building wealth. In reality, they are increasing their expenses. The more they earn, the more they spend. This cycle is what Kiyosaki calls the rat race. Poor Dad believed that a high salary was the solution to financial problems. Rich Dad believed that controlling expenses and building assets was the real solution. One focused on income, the other focused on cash flow. Rich Dad explained that the rich buy assets first. Assets like businesses, real estate that generates rent, stocks, or anything that produces income without requiring constant labor. The poor and middle class buy liabilities first and hope income will save them. That hope keeps them working forever. Another powerful idea in this part of the book is that financial struggle often increases as income increases. This sounds backward, but it's common. When people earn more, they upgrade their lifestyle. Bigger house, better car, more expenses, more pressure, more fear of losing it all. Higher income without financial intelligence often leads to deeper stress, not freedom. Rich Dad also warned Robert about taxes. Employees earn money, pay taxes, and then spend what's left. Business owners and investors often earn money, spend to grow assets, and then pay taxes on what remains. This is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about understanding how the system works and positioning yourself wisely. One of the most important lessons here is that money follows knowledge. The more financially educated you are, the more opportunities you can see. Most people never learn the language of money. So when opportunities appear, they don't recognize them. They say, "It's risky," or "That's not safe," and walk away. Rich Dad believed that working only for money is dangerous, but working to learn is powerful. Learn sales, learn accounting, learn investing, learn how businesses work. These skills turn effort into leverage. By this point in the book, Robert Kiyosaki makes something very clear. Money problems are rarely about money. They are about emotions. Two emotions in particular control most financial lives: fear and greed. Rich Dad believed that until you understand these emotions, no amount of income or education will ever be enough. Fear is usually the first one. Fear of not paying bills, fear of losing a job, fear of starting something new. This fear pushes people to seek security. A steady paycheck feels safe, so they cling to it, even if it costs them their freedom. Rich Dad warned that fear of being poor often keeps people poor. They become dependent on salaries and promotions instead of learning how to create income on their own. Then comes greed, or what Rich Dad called desire. Desire for a better lifestyle, a bigger house, a newer car, social approval. This desire makes people spend more the moment they earn more. Fear tells them to work harder. Greed tells them to spend more. Together, these two emotions create the rat race. Run faster, earn more, spend more, stay trapped. Rich Dad taught Robert that the key is not to eliminate fear or desire, but to control them. Most people let emotions decide their financial actions. The rich, according to Kiyosaki, learn to pause, think, and respond logically. They don't panic when things get uncomfortable. They don't chase pleasure when money increases. One of the most important lessons here is about mistakes. Poor Dad avoided mistakes at all costs. He believed failure was a sign of weakness. Rich Dad believed mistakes were the best teachers. He encouraged Robert to try, fail, learn, and try again. Financial education doesn't come from textbooks alone. It comes from experience. Rich Dad also explained why many intelligent people struggle financially. Intelligence in school does not equal intelligence with money. Schools reward memorization and obedience. Money rewards creativity, risk management, and decision-making. Many people with high degrees end up working for people with less formal education, but stronger financial intelligence. Another critical idea in this part is that most people don't really want to be rich. They want the comfort they believe money will bring, but becoming financially independent often requires short-term discomfort. Learning, failing, taking responsibility, facing uncertainty. Many people prefer familiar struggle over unfamiliar growth. Rich Dad taught Robert to see opportunities where others saw problems. When markets crash, people panic. Rich investors look for value. When others complain, they observe. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being prepared. Preparation turns fear into confidence. This section of the book pushes a hard truth. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid growth. Financial freedom requires stepping outside emotional habits that keep you stuck. In this part of the book, Robert Kiyosaki dives deeper into what Rich Dad called the most important skill of all: financial intelligence. According to him, money is not earned by hard work alone. It is earned by understanding how money moves, grows, and protects itself. Without this understanding, even high income becomes fragile. Rich Dad explained that financial intelligence is made up of several skills working together. The first is accounting or understanding numbers. You don't need to be an expert, but you must know where your money comes from and where it goes. Many people avoid numbers because they find them uncomfortable. That discomfort is expensive. Awareness creates control. The second skill is investing. Investing is not about gambling or chasing quick profits. It's about understanding value, risk, and long-term cash flow. Rich Dad taught Robert that investors don't look for excitement. They look for assets that quietly generate income while they sleep. The third skill is understanding markets. Markets are driven by emotion. Fear and greed create price movements. People who understand psychology can often spot opportunities when others panic. This doesn't require predicting the future. It requires staying calm while others react emotionally. The fourth skill is law. Rich Dad believed that knowing basic laws related to business, taxes, and ownership gives people an advantage. This is not about exploiting the system. It's about playing the game with knowledge instead of ignorance. Many people pay unnecessary taxes or take unnecessary risks simply because they don't understand the rules. The final and most underestimated skill is sales and communication. Kiyosaki often said that the ability to sell and communicate ideas is more valuable than technical skills. People who can explain, persuade, and negotiate often earn more than those who simply work hard. Money flows toward value and influence. Rich Dad also emphasized the importance of building businesses rather than relying solely on jobs. Jobs provide income, but businesses create systems. Systems allow income to continue without constant effort. This is the difference between being busy and being free. Another key lesson here is the idea of working to learn, not to earn. Early in life, Rich Dad encouraged Robert to choose jobs that taught skills rather than paid the most. Skills compound, salaries do not. What you learn in your 20s and 30s can determine your financial life decades later. This part of the book challenges a common belief that stability comes from employment. Rich Dad believed stability comes from diversified income sources. When income depends on one source, fear increases. When income comes from multiple assets, confidence grows. Financial intelligence is not built overnight. It's built through curiosity, mistakes, and continuous learning. Rich Dad, Poor Dad reminds us that money rewards those who are willing to keep learning long after school ends. At this stage of the book, Robert Kiyosaki addresses a painful question. If these ideas are so powerful, why doesn't everyone become wealthy? The answer is not lack of opportunity. It's not lack of intelligence. It's a set of internal obstacles that stop people before they even begin. The first obstacle is fear. Fear of losing money, fear of making mistakes, fear of looking foolish. Most people would rather stay comfortable in a job they dislike than risk uncertainty. Rich Dad believed fear never disappears. The difference is that successful people learn to move forward despite it. They don't wait for confidence. They act, and confidence follows. The second obstacle is cynicism. People say that won't work, or it's too risky without ever trying. Cynicism sounds intelligent, but it often hides insecurity. Rich Dad taught Robert to listen, but not be paralyzed by others' doubts. Those who criticize rarely create. The third obstacle is laziness, but not in the obvious sense. Many people are busy, not lazy. They use busyness as an excuse to avoid learning and thinking. True laziness, according to Rich Dad, is avoiding the responsibility of improving yourself. The fourth obstacle is bad habits. Financial habits are formed early, spending before investing, avoiding learning, seeking comfort over growth. Habits feel harmless in the moment, but over years, they shape destiny. Rich Dad emphasized that discipline with small choices creates freedom later. The fifth obstacle is arrogance. Arrogance blocks learning. People assume they already know enough, so they stop listening. Rich Dad believed that humility keeps you open to growth. The moment you think you've mastered money, money starts teaching you painful lessons. This part of the book also focuses on taking action. Knowledge without action is useless. Many people read books, watch videos, and attend seminars, but never apply anything. Rich Dad believed action, even imperfect action, was better than endless preparation. He encouraged starting small, buy a small asset, study one opportunity. Learn one skill. Momentum is built by movement, not by thinking. Waiting for the perfect moment often means waiting forever. Rich Dad also taught Robert the importance of paying yourself first. Instead of paying expenses and saving what's left, he suggested setting aside money for assets before anything else. This forces discipline and shifts priorities. Pressure, when used wisely, can be a teacher. This section of the book is a reminder that wealth is not created by luck or talent alone. It is created by decisions made consistently over time, even when they feel uncomfortable. As Rich Dad, Poor Dad comes to an end, Robert Kiyosaki brings everything back to one central idea. Money is a tool, not a goal. The purpose of financial education is not to become obsessed with wealth, but to gain control over your life. When money controls your decisions, freedom disappears. When you understand money, freedom becomes possible. The real lesson of this book is not about real estate, stocks, or businesses. It's about choice. Financial intelligence gives you options. It gives you the ability to walk away from situations that drain you. It gives you time to spend with family, to learn, to rest, and to create. Without financial education, people trade their time for money forever. Kiyosaki reminds us that the world doesn't reward those who play it safe. It rewards those who learn continuously and adapt. The economy changes, jobs disappear, skills become outdated, but financial intelligence stays valuable because it teaches you how to think, not what to think. One of the most powerful closing ideas is that wealth is built outside of comfort zones. Growth requires facing uncertainty. Rich Dad never promised an easy path. He promised a better one, a path where effort builds assets instead of expenses, where mistakes are lessons, not failures, where money becomes a servant, not a master. The book also leaves us with a strong warning. If you avoid learning about money, someone else will manage it for you. Employers decide your income. Governments decide your taxes. Inflation decides your purchasing power. Ignorance is expensive. Education is protective. So what did we truly learn from Rich Dad, Poor Dad? We learned that working hard is not enough. We learned that high income does not guarantee wealth. We learned that assets create freedom, while liabilities create pressure. We learned that fear and greed trap people in cycles. And most importantly, we learned that financial education is a lifelong responsibility. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to become an investor overnight. You need to start thinking differently, ask better questions, learn one concept, take one small step. Over time, those steps change your direction. This book is not telling you to chase money, it's telling you to understand it. Because when you understand money, you stop fearing it. And when fear disappears, possibilities expand. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is ultimately a book about freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom from the rat race. And that freedom begins the moment you decide to learn how money really works.